Thank you for choosing Pilbert Co. for your listening needs. Please enjoy this edition of Reality Check, Part 4.
With one arm outstretched and his laptop in the other, he and Dev embraced. It had been a year since they last saw each other in person.
Remy, how are you? How's the family?
You know, same old, same old. How's it been going for you? Do you live around here?
No, I still live with my parents. Embarrassing, I know.
Not at all. I live here at the residential program. It's great. You might be interested in it.
Right. I saw those just this morning on my tour.
Those strange-looking apartments continued to feel more appealing.
Anyways, this is Dave, my reality checker.
Dev said as he motioned behind his shoulder.
Oh, right. I know Dave.
You do? I'm surprised with how big this office is.
Remy paused for a moment with his eyes briefly flickering to the side.
Dave was actually my reality checker, too. They're associated with certain departments. It's a bit hard to explain.
You explained it well enough, Remy. No shame.
Dave intervened.
It's about time to head over to the cafeteria. Let's get going.
They each stepped onto the trolley, ignoring the seat belts. Even Spanish didn't care about enforcing that one. The trolley smoothly sped up to an impressive pace, whirring several inches above the floor. Cubicles and cabinets of various shapes and sizes all vanished into the horizon line. They just kept coming, rows upon rows, columns upon columns. It was a spreadsheet in itself. They soon began to decelerate, reaching the edge of the cubicle field. The ground below suddenly transitioned to a reflective gray plastic, and the ceilings were lowered. It was still tiled, but with semi-translucent plastic sheets and bright white lights shining through. The whirring ceased as they came to a clean stop and stepped out of the trolley. It was the cafeteria, no doubt about it.
It's exactly the same as the training room,
Dev observed.
Well, I sure hope it is.
Dave quipped. The room was divided into two discrete sections between the kitchen and the seating area. It wasn't much larger than the average restaurant. He wondered where the rest of the workers would get their food. There clearly wasn't enough to feed an office the size of a small town.
Is this the only breakfast cafeteria?
Oh no, not at all. There's about 300 total in the entire atrium.
300?
He was again astonished by the sheer magnitude of this place. How had he not seen such a large building while walking on the campus for the first time? It must have been the ceilings which stood shorter than the other offices. It then occurred to him that this is why Pilbert Corporation had purchased a remote piece of land several decades ago to construct it. A building this large would entail unthinkable property costs.
The thing I like about working here is that, after a while, it doesn't feel so large. Once I got to know my department, I never even thought about everyone around me.
Remy added. He peered into the kitchen section to see workers with suspiciously clean aprons and towering hats prepare whatever nourishment the company had developed. Although, judging from what he had seen before, it was likely the same classic earth cuisine he saw yesterday. Fortunately, that proved to be a plus, once again. They all ordered a Danish with cherry filling and a coffee. Dave's recommendation. It was excellent, especially the coffee. When he was ordering, they asked him if he wanted Klim with his coffee, to which Dave reminded him it was the drink he had yesterday. He surmised to give it a try and was not disappointed.
What's exactly in this stuff?
Dev inquired while at their table.
Like I said before, it's a company secret, but it does vary from location to location.
Dave offered.
Tobacco?
Remy joked while flashing a smile. Dave glared, somewhat peeved at the observation.
Let's not throw around wild assumptions, my friend.
I was only joking. I mean, it might as well. It's so good I have it almost every day.
Oh. Well, I'm glad to see that you're joking. That would be quite problematic if we were to do something like that.
It would, wouldn't it?
Remy answered.
Seeing that we stopped spiking the tea nearly 2 centuries ago, I simply couldn't imagine anything like that happening again.
Remy raised his eyebrows.
Jeepers, they did that? No way!
They did, but it was an experimental protocol, and all employees signed off willingly before the procedure on their employment clause. It was an effort to improve performance.
That's pretty extreme, I think.
Said Dev.
It only seems that way because they were required to work so hard at that time. A new mining operation had commenced in the Aleph sector. Entering a new sector requires huge amounts of collaboration between departments. It takes a lot of time.
That's pretty interesting, actually. I don't know how I would deal with that workload.
Remy paused.
But I would definitely try my hardest.
I'm fairly confident you would. Extreme demands require extreme workloads. Now, Zix, that's the way the old adage goes.
Who was it that said that?
Jim Bentham.
Well, no matter, they must have worked incredibly hard.
Dev added.
They did. They were amazing peons.
Remy continued to tap on his laptop keyboard as they finished their food, sweeping their crumbs onto the floor for the roving custodial bot to clean up. It smiled politely through a strange curved glass screen in the near corner of the room.
Hey, Dev?
Remy asked.
Let me see that ID of yours. I want to see the smile HR put on your face.
He playfully reached out and gestured for Dev's ID. Dev had almost forgotten about it up to this point. All the effort he had put into it yesterday seemed to have already settled in the back of his memories. He removed the lanyard from around his neck, lobbing it over to Remy. Remy sarcastically squinted at the picture and back at Dev. Dave smiled.
You've got a long way to go, Remy. Checking a picture like that requires years of training, but good try.
Remy looked embarrassed.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just teasing again.
I suppose you fooled me then.
Dave answered, the irony completely lost yet again. Remy passed the ID back, placing it onto Dev's tray.
Not bad. I look like a hobo in mine. It took forever for them to duplicate the look. Almost 2 hours, if I remember.
That's surprising.
Dev said, even though at this point it full well wasn't.
Anyways,
Inserted Dave.
I believe it's time to head back to the office and finish up your initial training. Let's place the trays on the conveyor belt.
On the far end of the cafeteria was the aforementioned belt. Dev had never seen such one in person, but was familiar with the concept from his childhood cartoons. It stretched to the back corner of the cafeteria and took a left turn into a large, stainless steel enclosure. Once it passed through the trays and silverware, came out spotless. Another employee was standing at the far wall, sorting through the trays, arranging them neatly before entrance into the cleaner. They reached the nearest opening and one by one placed their trays onto the belt. He looked ahead at the worker. He didn't wear a tall, baggy hat like the rest of the staff. Simply an apron and a hairnet. This time, the apron had a few signs of wear, and the shoulder strap had a tear that was stitched. He felt a tinge of sadness for him as he sorted through the plates. Such a job would eat him and Remy alive. And yet, he was willing to bet his next paycheck that this man hadn't chosen it either. The worker mechanically sorted through the tableware with great precision that only came through practice. Why did Pilbert still insist on jobs like this? There was already a machine that did half of his job anyways. One right next to him, no less. The dishman stopped abruptly, holding up something and staring at it briefly in the air while it swung back and forth. His ID. Dev raised his hand, hollering with embarrassment.
Oh my gosh, that's mine! That's mine! That's my ID!
He yelled, waving his hands.
Right here! My bad!
The dishman turned his head around swiftly like it was stuck to the top of a stake. The conveyor belt did not stop moving and the rest of his body hastened to leave its former position. It was an unnatural stance for him to be in, and his face reached out in distaste. He stared to his left, then right, then back at Dev. His baggy, dead eyes met his own.
You'll thank me later,
he said, as he dropped the ID back onto the tray and into the incinerator. A wave of adrenaline hit Dev as he protested. Remy and Dave raced back over to see what the problem was. Dave's eyes immediately pierced through the back of the kitchen, trying to investigate.
What's going on? What's wrong?
He just passed my tray into the incinerator.
Dev stuttered.
My ID was on it. I think it just got incinerated.
What? How?
Remy glared back at the dishman.
I don't know.
Dev stared back at the dishman.
What's your problem, man? It's my first day of work here.
The man with the tattered apron did not stare back and resumed his original stance, simply staring at the wall. Like clockwork, his tray passed through the silver vessel, completely spotless and without his ID. His adrenaline turned to embarrassment. The piece of plastic that had defined each hour of his day and every moment of tedium was gone, back to the drawing board. He sighed. This would be such a huge hassle to get back. He squirmed under the realization that he would have to go through yet more hideously laborious procedure to get it back. He looked behind him, noticing Remy's obvious surprise. Dave maintained his steely gaze directly into the heart of the incinerator. He looked like he was going to blow a fuse for the first time in his life. Then he stopped. Like a jester with a mask, the stern stare completely disappeared into a calm, empty expression, devoid of emotion. He stood for an unusually long time while breathing quietly through his nose.
I see,
he said, as he turned away from the kitchen. Dev was stunned. There was no sense of annoyance or reprehension in his voice. It might as well have never happened. A quick glance and Remy remained baffled. The man had literally changed expressions in the blink of an eye, his emotions completely transient.
Dave?
Remy asked.
Right, we'll just head back to the station now. I'll get it taken care of shortly. Not a problem at all.
There he was, completely back to his original self. Not a hint of something different. It was as if he was showing off his self-control in some bizarre display. Dev couldn't help but be alarmed at what he was seeing.
I'm so sorry. That's my fault. I shouldn't have been so careless. I'll have to take a page from your book from now on.
Dev petitioned Dave, eager to earn back some of his dwindling honor.
Oh, it's not a problem, sir. We'll get it taken care of swiftly. But for now, let's just focus on the moment and head back to the breakfast station.
They did as such and whizzed back to their cubicles. The slight breeze seemed to blow away some of the embarrassment from the previous debacle. After all, the crux of the situation was the worker who willingly decided to toss the ID into the incinerator. He almost surmised a laugh as he considered the ridiculousness of it all. And, you'll thank me later. What kind of person would throw away someone's valuables and call it a blessing? It didn't make any sense at all. He looked ahead amongst the packed desks as the vehicle slowed to a crawl. They stepped off, and Remy stood facing the direction in which he originally came. He glanced back, waiting for them to follow.
I'll take it from here, Remy. I appreciate your help. I'll take this gentleman back to the HR building.
Remy looked slightly puzzled.
Okay, no problem. See you later, Dave.
See you soon.
Later, Remy.
Dev said as he saluted back to his friend.
Please follow me, sir.
Spanish said as he motioned for Dev to follow. A small chill crept up Dev's chest. There was a noticeable coldness from Dave as they trudged back through the aisles. Everything on the surface appeared to be normal, but his demeanor had not been fully restored. He recalled the jovialness in which they chatted earlier that morning. No doubt the incident with the ID was a larger bother to him than he had been letting on. He had to admit, he demonstrated some serious emotional suppression skills. He was likely dreading the anticipatory paperwork he'd have to file for such a situation. Dev fully agreed to let the man be. He had enough on his plate as it was being in such an anal position. They reached the corridor that opened to the atrium. Dev looked back one last time before continuing to follow Spanish down snaking hallways. There was one detail about this place that Dev had failed to see. Rather shocking in retrospect. Looking back at the largest conglomeration of people and workspaces he had ever seen, they converged into one color on the horizon. Beige, Pilbertian beige, to be precise. There was no mistaking it. 4 years of art school wouldn't fail him now. The same hue, saturation, tone. It was all there. He could feel the chill growing. Before he had time to memorize the convoluted path, they had already exited the graphics communication office. This time, Spanish turned at different intersections along his path. Didn't Dave say he took the short route earlier that morning? Maybe he needed a breather.
Is this the longer route?
Dev inquired. Dave looked back with a concerned expression. He hesitated to speak.
Correct. It is. But I'm not sure how you'd know that, seeing as I've never shown you before. Yes, that's it. Maybe a tour guide decided to show you.
Dev now had begun to be concerned. It felt like Dave's connection to reality had severed.
Are you okay, Dave?
Wait,
His head swerved back for the first time in a while.
how do you know my name?
Thank you for joining us in this edition of Reality Check. Be sure to subscribe and tune in for the next installment. For more Pilbert Co., follow us on Medium, TikTok, and Instagram.